Chief, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Victor, would you please say the prayer?
Father God in heaven, we come to you today in the name of Jesus. God, and we humbly ask you for your guidance. God, we ask that you will humble us, Lord, crush us, and lift us up, God. Help us to make all the right decisions. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Roll call. Nita?
Counselor Foster?
Presence.
Counselor Locke?
Here.
Counselor Lorenz?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Segula?
Here.
Mayor Becker?
Here.
A quorum is declared.
Do we have any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we will have one modification. We need to add L1. This is a contract for release or for payment of furniture for the Sky High complex.
I would move to approve the modifications to the agenda.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve modifications to the agenda by adding L1, payment for furniture for Sky High Park. Is there any discussion? Unita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Locke?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segula?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to modify the agenda, adding L1.
Okay, approval of consent agenda, minutes of regular meeting from December 2nd, 2021, review and approval of accounts payable.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda for the minutes of regular meeting December 2nd, 2021, and review and approval of accounts payable. Is there any discussion? Unita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Locke?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segula?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we were gonna go right into citizen comments and special presentations. Scheduled appearances have to be turned into the city clerk no later than noon Monday prior to the meeting. So the first one we have is Optimistic Citizen Action Network, Mr. Henko.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. Sign in here a second. I'm here actually tonight to present a project for your input and partial approval. And I'll get to the partial approval in a second. So, the project is a joint venture between the Friends of Santio Cranes, which is Jenny and Laura, and the Optimistic Citizens Action Network. Jenny and Laura approached us a couple meetings ago concerning the possibilities of bike racks in and around Monte Vista. Both of them are avid riders, but have no place to secure their bikes when they go into the stores and things like that. So initially we thought that we were gonna all work on this, but basically they handed it off to the Optimistic, so no big deal. No big deal. The idea was, of course, brought to our attention by them. The bike racks would be strategically placed around the city. They would be sponsored by different companies. We have a list already of different places besides Adams Street and a couple other public buildings. Big R, the Safeway, places like that where you can chain your bike up and run in and get groceries or pick up a bolt or something. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, so we, with the terrain being mostly flat in Monte Vista, we'd like to encourage more bike riding. But one of the things that Jenny said was, there's no place to fasten my bike, so I'm not leaving it. And she brought her bike by the hotel, and it's a very expensive bike. So you wanna secure it. Anyways, so our plan is to sell sponsorships at a reasonable price, mount them both on city and private business property, attach a plaque to them that would, number one, say that it is a bike rack, because you'll see this one here. Number two, that has a sponsor on it, and number three, that has the artist. And for those of you that have been around a while, John Patterson, we contacted John because he does a lot of metal work, and this is the first one that he's created. I don't know if you all can see that or not, but it would have, down below, it would have a plate attached that would bolt down to the sidewalk. Jenny's already brought her bike by the hotel and changed it up to this and said it works. The difference is that all of them will be different. They'll be like works of art. John has agreed to make them and keep the price down if he can use products that he has, out at the farm. So these are all products that he had out there. So he put the first kind of one together. The discussion has been around whether to leave them natural, whether to prime them and paint them, or whether to allow just prime them and allow the sponsors to contact a artist of their choice to dress them up, or just leave them like this, which is of course a work of art. We agreed to put the bike rack name on it, or just say it's a bike rack, because if you just set it out there, people are going to just think it's a work of art, and they're not going to change their bike to it. Anyways. So we do have quite a few sponsors already lined up, which is nice. What of course I would need from the city is any additional input on the bike racks, of course. And I know Rob has already looked at it, and we've talked about mounting and things like that. But also the permission to put them in different spots on Adams Street, Fulham Wider Park, Chapman Park, wherever a bike rack is needed in town, both public property and then the private property. So that's the project, and that's what we're looking to do. John has agreed to manufacture as many as we can sell, so we should be able to fill the city with some bike racks.
Do you have locations figured out, Rob, on the sidewalks?
We haven't got that far, but I'm thinking we have plenty of bulb outs along 160 on Adams that we could accommodate a few bike racks. I don't envision that we'd have one on necessarily every corner, but it is something that we would have space for. And they are small enough on a footprint level that, 2 bikes or 3 bikes could use them and still be able to get walking sidewalk use out of it.
So you said they're not all the same. They're all going to be different. Are they all going to be like bicycle looking? Do you know? Like just.
Yes. Yeah. They'll just have different attachments to it, maybe different pedals, different wheels, whatever he has. The idea, of course, was to keep the price down so that the sponsors weren't paying a lot of money. If he had to go out and buy the metal, as you and I, Mary, were talking about, the price would go crazy. So my guess is he's got a whole barn full of stuff out there that he can weld together and do these things. So, and he's of course willing to, if he brought one over and it didn't look like we wanted it to look, he's willing to modify it and whatever. And originally he was going to prime this one and prime paint it. And I said leave it natural for now until we get some input as to what we want to do with it. Now, I was down in Albuquerque, and Albuquerque did regular kind of bicycles with the regular wheels in metal, and they painted them different colors, purple, red, orange, green, whatever, and they have them around the city down there. And we didn't want to copy somebody. So, and we also wanted to do some kind of a work of art.
I like the idea. I think it's great. you know, to be able to ride your bike, you know, Monte Vista's small enough, you can actually walk everywhere if you wanted to, you know. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
What price range do we foresee these bike racks coming in at?
150 to 200.
Is there a estimated amount of bike racks we're kind of estimating, do you know, for the city?
The racks?
Yeah, like how many we're looking to gain, or not quite yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. I mean, we'll identify locations in downtown. We do know, I already talked to Big R and they're interested. I've already talked to Safeway and they're interested. So those are private properties. And even the Polished Bean is interested in possibly putting one out somewhere on their property to chain up bikes and grab a cup of coffee.
Cool.
So I think there's a lot more opportunity out there than we actually know at this point. Any other questions? Any thoughts on painting or not painting?
I kind of like that look right there, but I also kind of, you know, enjoy people's artistic nature. You know what I mean? Like to see the cranes in town, you know, see the painting. I think that's good too. I don't know. I think some people are all over. Some people like, you know, that look, and some people want to paint. I don't know.
If you paint it.
Well, that's why we've been up and down on it.
Right.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to leave it up to the sponsor, and if it's being put on private property in relation to let that business do it. They may wish to paint it in regards to their specific color scheme.
Can do that. And then the city we can do. Well, even that, some of the places we put it out in front of, where those jugs are out there, maybe the store wants to paint it a different color.
Yeah.
Other questions? Thank you.
I don't believe so. Thanks, Ken. We have to motion that, Rob, or is that just a done deal?
What's that?
Should we motion that?
Yes.
Probably should, yes, sir.
So what exactly are we looking for a motion on? Just to
Putting
give,
it on
Permission to put bike racks in.
yeah,
On
city
city
property.
side.
City property.
yeah.
Right.
Until we have locations though, I don't wanna just throw a blanket out
Right.
there and say where we go for it.
No, and we work closely with Rob to where we're gonna put them and so on and so forth, so.
So maybe we can get some locations.
We can do it that way, so I'd make the motion that we give permission to install bike racks on city property with the consent and in discussion with the Public Works.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve bike racks, as long as discussed with Rob. Public Works. Any more discussion? This include, one question, this include Sky High Park?
It could, yes, sir. All city properties, I think, would be eligible for that. I think bikes at Sky would be something we should really look at. There is a bike lane on Sherman.
Any more discussion?
There are proposed bike racks.
Is there? Okay. Then we will want to look at that a little closer.
Okay. Nita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Locke?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segola?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve for the placement of bike racks on city property with the work from Public Works.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll go to SLD Go, McDaniel.
Hi, how are y'all?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. Just come in and introduce myself. I haven't had a chance to formally meet you. Patrick Ortiz, of course, has been in. He's our operations director and worked with you all and talked with you about the trail, the Monte Vista wetland trail that's now at the end of, well, behind Big R. I forget the name of the street.
Chico
Oh,
Camino.
Chico Camino.
Chico Camino.
So hopefully you've had a chance to get out and walk it. It is a beautiful trail. It came out really well. Community feedback has been outstanding. Just about everybody I've talked to has has been really excited about the project. We'd love to do a grand opening at some point of that, open to when you all would like to be there. We are doing Mountain Film here in Monte Vista on January 21st. It may be too cold to really enjoy being outside, but it may be a good time too to also do a grand opening. So just something for you all to think about, and I can coordinate with Gigi if that is a good time. And we can also watch the weather. That's, San Luis Valley winters. So one minute it could be really nice, the next minute it could be really snowy and blustery, as it has been the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure how familiar you are with San Luis Valley Great Outdoors. I know you're familiar with their project, but we do work in a number of projects across the San Luis Valley. We are a hub for San Luis Valley Generation Wild, which is a GOCO-funded youth initiative to get youth outdoors. There are 9 partners, including SLV Go, involved in that. And 2 of them are here in Monte Vista. Alpine Achievers Initiative, which provides AmeriCorps vistas for after-school programs throughout the valley. And then also Rio Grande Watershed Conservation and Education Initiative, also known as REDWICI, which provides after-school programs as well and water conservation and education. And so that's one thing we do. We do a lot of community work. Typically, every project we have is had some kind of charge from the community, and Monte Vista was no different. We started in that conversation back in 2018 with a small group of citizens. Engineering was one of them at the time, of course, Forrest Newberg, Jaime Hurtado, Parks and Rec, Sean Noonan, John Campanecci, and Tom Tichy, who at the time was the principal at the middle school, was also involved. And we at the time, we just identified a few projects that could happen in Monte Vista, and that was the one that they selected and Forrest approved, and I believe came to you all for approval and grant. We wrote a grant for that to GOCO and received that funding in the summer of 2020. And most projects generally take about, once we receive funding, about 6 months or so to get moving. And of course that one was wet, so we had to wait a little bit for it to dry out and us to build it up. We did look for funding in the spring with an NRPA grant that we thought was a good fit for Monte Vista. We were unsuccessful with that. I sometimes joke and say that we work in no's. Right now we write for about $2 million of funding a year for the San Luis Valley. We probably get a third of that. But we work really hard at getting the ask out and getting foundations familiar with the work we're doing for our communities. We did write for you all in November an EPA grant, is Main Streets and Outdoor Recreation Economy. Optimistics are on our list to get in touch with, of course, if we were to get that. It's really a technical assistant grant, there's no direct funding that comes in, but they do send in folks to work in a community and kind of build a shared goal to what that might look like. And we've worked in those capacities before with Local Foods, Local Places, which is a federal program, and others, and had great success with them, and just kind of getting a plan together that we can activate on. Let's see. We are also engaged with the Department of Natural Resources and Colorado Parks and Wildlife in an initiative called Regional Partnership Initiative. The idea would be that we would provide feedback to the state's comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. That's significant for us because that plan has predominantly been driven by the Front Range and doesn't necessarily fit rural communities in the San Luis Valley. And this is our first time that we have the opportunity to really comment on that and be a voice for our region for it. So we are holding meetings for that. That's the SLV Go Coalition meeting. It's monthly, the last Thursday of every month in the afternoon. You all are more than welcome to join. We'd really welcome that. We're just at I think we're in our 3rd meeting under that initiative, so we're just really beginning to get the vision kind of established from that group. But there's going to be a lot of work that comes from it, and we'll have our own plan, that will really help us not only like on a county level or a municipality level, but also with the federal government, and understanding so that they understand what our community needs are when it comes to their land and how we interact with it, and that we're not getting blocked out of that planning process either. Yeah. So other initiatives, we're involved in most counties at this point in some way. Like they're all at different levels. You know, we're the fiscal agent for Eastern San Luis Valley Trails. We're working on trails in Crestone. We have some projects that we're looking at in the town of Saguache. We've been working in Costilla County. We have a $250,000 project in Rito Seco Park there that we will finish up hopefully in May this year. It's ongoing though. That's quite an extensive plan. We're also working with the town of San Luis, but it's Costilla County property just outside on what's called the Carpenter Ranch. It'll be a 3-mile trail system, not dissimilar to what you all have here now, just a little bit larger, that will overlook the town of San Luis. Of course, we've been working in Alamosa, we've worked in Del Norte. Yeah, it seems like it's growing all the time. We're starting to work in Lahara as well. So we're pretty spread throughout the San Luis Valley at this point, and multiple projects going. We are a pretty small staffing structure. Right now we have 4 full-time staff year-round, 1 AmeriCorps Vista, and then I work with some 1099s under grant writing to keep that machine moving because we do write for so much. And then we have a trail crew of about 8 people. That trail crew, of course, is capable of crusher fine type trails that we do in communities, but we also do a lot of maintenance on federal lands, everything from chainsaws to motorized to you name it. We're generally involved with it, including campground restorations, and quite a bit of fence work, fencing off riparian areas to keep cattle out, in some instances for private land as well. So we're pretty broad. It's a great crew, all San Luis Valley residents, so all that money's coming back into this economy. We had 100% retention of that crew coming into this last year, which was awesome. You seldom get that on a seasonal position, but we do pay well, and we fight to pay well for those folks because it is seasonal. And so we had 100% retention. We expect we're going to lose about 50% this year, and that's fine. So there'll be new positions that we're just now beginning to look at and hiring. But as of right now, just before I came in, since I've been here in 17, this doesn't include projects that the coalition did before I got here. We've brought about $8 million of funding in the San Luis Valley. So for projects spread out. Brought some pamphlets, just so sometimes it's hard to explain exactly what we do. The big part is the community process.
Sir.
Yeah.
What time on Thursday is that meeting?
3 o'clock. We will move into, the plan is that we move into smaller group meetings throughout all SLV communities. And so there will be one in Monte Vista. That'll be in the spring sometime in the February to March time scale. We just want to make sure that people who can't make a coalition meeting, in the middle of the afternoon on Thursday, that they have a chance to come and talk to us in the evening somewhere, and we get to hear their concerns and viewpoints. And we probably will move into more committee work as that continues to develop, but we're developing with the coalition and the community, so we don't know what the end product looks like yet. I have a lot of other things I'd love to tell you about, exciting things that are happening, but they're always pending funding. That's just how life is for us. Like I said, I joke and say we work in no's. We get way more no's than we get yeses, but it doesn't curtail us. We just keep going, keep writing, and eventually we find something that works, we can bring in. But if there's anything I could ever do or need, or if there's something I could be involved with, I love the bike rack idea. That is awesome. Feel free to reach out. And as we find out about funding and other initiatives, I'll reach out to you all too. But we're just keeping on moving. I think Monte Vista has an incredible opportunity for more connection to public open land and also the Rio Grande. I don't know what that looks like yet, and we're probably years from it, but when you look at a map, there's just some really incredible opportunities to maybe connect to like Shriver Wright and wildlife refuges. But those are probably years out, but I think that's part of a community conversation that can happen here in Monte Vista as time moves on. Trails are a huge economic driver for Colorado in particular, but most of the Mountain West and rural communities, our current estimates, are that, about $200 per person spent somewhere on trails per year. And so if you start just looking at your populations and people coming through, that could be really significant for any community. I think we've seen that in Del Norte, seen it a different way in Alamosa, right? Because their economy's not so attached to trails necessarily, but we've certainly seen that kind of progress in Del Norte, and would love to see that happen for Amani too, in a way that felt good for Monte Vista.
Very good.
Yeah, great. Any questions or y'all are? That's easy. Usually get some hard question. Great, thank you.
Mr. Vance, you are the rest of the show.
So, good evening. Gigi asked me to bring to council tonight something a little different than what we've done in the past, and she asked me to kind of touch on some of the things that we do and am involved in as far as the city that aren't really highlighted all that much. So wanted to touch on 3 different things, and with that, I think we have some technical difficulties.
Hang on just a second.
So we'll wait
Sorry.
just a second. But yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about our water and freezing meters, and then tree board, and then eventually into the landfill. 3 key elements for the community that really don't get a lot of talk about, and I wanna make sure that we talk about them and see if we can, something's working now. So. Ready?
You're good. Thanks.
Maybe. Maybe not. There we go. So tonight we're going to talk about the water, and one of the things I was going to talk about just the freezing meter since we're moving into December, but I also started thinking that maybe it'd be a good idea to address to the public how we actually set our sewer bills, and that's based off of water usage. So we're going to talk about sewer billing, freezing meters, and then we're going to talk about the tree board, and then finally our landfill, and just pretty much a general update for those. So water, setting our annual sewer rates. Each year the city uses the period between November 16th and December 15th to set the next year's sewer rates. We do it on an individual basis based on usage. So for those people that don't use a lot of water, their bill for their sewer will be technically lower than somebody that uses a ton of water. Okay, so it is based off of water, actual water usage, and we use the dates primarily so that there are no outside waters. November to December is a period when nobody should be necessarily watering their lawns. So everything being used in the household is going to the sewer system and eventually being treated at a cost that we have to pay. Okay, so that's why we use that period. Nobody's watering grasses. We haven't allowed anybody to start watering or running water for freezing meters yet. So that's a period where the use, the consumption is all inside the home, is the idea behind that. So, any questions on that one? Okay, then I'll jump into freezing meters. I just put out a press release notifying our residents that on December 22nd, they can start running water. This is due to our inability to predict when we're going to get to the cold snap when we start having frozen meters. We update our thing to provide 15,000 gallons of water under our base charges from the period of December 22nd to March 21st of each year. It is a benefit to our citizens that I hope each of them take into account, because the meters are extremely expensive, and there's no way for me without adding a huge cost and putting frost level gauges in to determine when we're gonna get into frozen meters. We just can't predict it. Years like this where we don't have any snow, if we turn cold and have sub-zero temperature, the snow actually acts as an insulator. So all those things in homes and stuff will start freezing. If your house isn't very well insulated, you run the risk of doing that. Everything in a pit, in years like this, if we turn really cold, have a very good tendency to want to freeze. It's been a few years since we had a lot of frozen meters, but back in 2015, during that winter, December into January, I worked my staff 30 days straight, 17 hours a day, frozen meters. It is a huge burden for the city, huge cost. So by running a water is just a trickle of water, just slightly more than a drip. Tell them about the size of a pencil lead. We'll do it. You won't go over the 15,000 gallons per month doing it that way. That's been tested. So we do ask our citizens that if you are prone to having freeze-ups, meaning you've had freezing pipes or a frozen meter in years past, starting December 22nd, to go ahead and start running water. It is the best thing to do, especially with the holidays and everything coming up. So, any questions on that? That's what a frozen meter looks like. A little laser, but if you look, our meters, when they freeze, the frost plate on the bottom breaks. So in the springtime or when those meters get thawed out, that's what leaks. So you'll see a lot of that sometimes. People that have landscape meters, those will break, and then first part of spring you'll start seeing leaks come out in somebody's grass. So.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
That showed like an outside picture. You want them to run it outside or
No.
inside?
That's just a picture of
Oh.
frozen water. So no, I want them to run inside. Usually a bathroom sink or a kitchen sink, somewhere in there. Sorry, good question. No, yes. I do not want you to run outside faucets. Run the inside ones. Okay. All right, so the Monte Vista Tree Board. That's a picture from back in 2008. The tree board are our stewards for city trees. They're appointed by council, and they act as an advisory board to city council in all things that relate to our street trees. City trees are any trees that are within the city right of way, trees that are in city parks, and trees that are on public grounds such as City Hall. The trees directly outside City Hall are city trees, and the tree board kind of stewards those and makes sure that they're okay. The tree board acts to protect our urban forest and plans and guides city council and city staff to maintain the urban forest within our municipal boundaries. They help in the development of the city's tree inventory. We're currently working on that with the tree board. They develop an application for the replacement and removal of trees. We get a lot of citizens that want trees removed on their property or out on the city property. We've developed an application process that the tree board can then evaluate the tree and see if it really needs to come out. A couple of years ago, we had a resident that wanted trees out. They weren't diseased. There was nothing really wrong with them. And we wound up, because we didn't have any regulations that say you can't do that, we wound up taking those trees out. And that's sad. Trees are a vital part of our community. Trees make a community feel like a community, give you kind of the boulevard effect as you drive down the western half of our streets and you have the trees that overhang the highway. It makes it really pretty, especially in the spring, in the fall when the colors are changing. It's a really pretty time. And they assist with all of our Arbor Day celebrations. The mayor's had an opportunity to partake in them, and they're actually a lot of fun. It's to celebrate the planting of trees, started in Nebraska, continued on throughout. We, the city, have been Tree City USA for over 26 years. This I love. This is a picture of our memorial park when it was being first developed, and we used grants from the Colorado Tree Coalition to put in the trees in there. It was basically a vacant field. We went in, we landscaped it, we built some trails, we installed the things. It looks totally different like that than the vacant field that it used to be. So it's a great addition to our town. Kirby wasn't able to come here. So tonight, I'm gonna also talk to you a little bit about our landfill, a couple pictures off of their website. It's the San Luis Valley Regional Solid Waste Authority. I have the pleasure of serving on that board. It has been an adventure for the last 9.5 years. Jim tells a pretty funny story, and it's actually really true, that when he first took over as the landfill manager, he didn't even have a computer in his office. He had pieces of paper. So I've been on the board of directors for almost 10 years now. I'm currently serving as the vice chair. Commissioner Gene Glover of Rio Grande County is our chairman. The other board members are Commissioner Vern Hersink in Alamosa, Harry Reynolds with the city of Alamosa, and Dixie Diltz with the Rio Grande County. Recent opportunities and successes there. It's quite a process, but we finally received final approval for cell 10. So the next cell is ready to go and start being used. Jim was able to get us where we passed the state inspection with no deficiencies. Fully staffed, I believe now, Jim?
Yep.
And unfortunately, we are in the process of saying goodbye to Landfill Manager Jim Clare, who's retiring, but we also have Ron stand up if you would. Ron Reveley is going to be the new Landfill Manager. He's just now starting, still getting his feet very much wet, learning as we go. But we're looking great things for him. I don't know if you want to come up and say a few things or whatnot. You just hold your horses on this.
I was getting ready to leave.
Sure. Hello, folks. Some of you might know me. I've been in Monte Vista area for forever, almost seems like. But anyway, since like early 1990 probably. Started with Division Wildlife for 27 years with them, and then spent here in the San Luis Valley, mostly in the Alamos area towards the later years. And then switched over to Colorado State Land Board for 5 years. And kind of ran the Southwest District for Colorado State Land, managing the trust land in 24 counties across the Southwest here. And then in September of this last year, I retired from the state. So, knew Jim, so I knew the position was kind of open there, and discussed it with him a little bit, and went in and applied for it, and got in front of the board, and they offered me the position. So, kind of really looking forward to it. I know Jim's done an excellent job in getting the landfill, in a really good position. Kind of had a recent transition of a lot of staff, and those staff are kind of very enthusiastic and willing to kind of continue that role, and hopefully, we'll be able to manage it and stay in good graces with the state inspectors and keep up with serving the community here in the San Luis Valley. So, kind of looking forward to the challenges it has, and getting Jim out the door and enjoying his retirement. So, anybody has any questions?
The approval for cell 10, is that a new pit?
It will be, yeah. So currently it's the one we're finishing up right now. We're not finishing up, but kind of doing some tiers on is cell 9, which is a little bit north. So if anybody's been in there recently, you'll see a big kind of pit area just to the south of where you're dumping at now, and that'd be cell 10. So hopefully that'll kind of give us several years of service before we kind of do something different. But we'll have different options in there.
I was just gonna ask, how long does a cell usually take to say, okay, we're gonna move over?
Well, Jim would be better to answer that question than me, but I guess, they vary in size, and then originally, I think, some of the original cells that they started on are still not up to complete elevation height. So at some point we'll go back and go back in them complete a couple final elevation tiers. I can't remember, I remember asking Sherry this when the office manager out there, how many years, landfill is still viable. I think she said like 30-some years anyway at current rates. But I think this last year, maybe due to COVID and that, I know Jim and Sherry, on the board have expressed that there's been an increase in either residents in the valley or increase of amount of material going into it. So it's kind of, maybe some of those predictions might be a little underestimated for, the viability of the length of time. But
Cool. Well, congratulations.
yeah, thanks. Well, looking forward to working with the board, and I'm sure I'll be back before you guys at some point down the road.
And as a board, we were really pleased when Ron put his application in. He brings a lot of experience. One of the biggest things that we were concerned with, Jim's done a lot of improvements at the landfill, and we wanted to make sure that those improvements that he's started and seen through get carried away, and we're fully confident that Ron will take those and continue with running with those, and also probably expand a little bit, do some other things that'll be new and adventures. And as far as the cells are concerned, the landfill has seen a pretty drastic growth over the last few years. So as things grow, which is good, but it also shuts down as many years as we can get. So cell 10 was probably slightly a little more advanced than what we originally thought back when we first started doing it. But I would like to bring Jim Clare up here. Jim has been an absolutely fantastic pleasure to work with. Like I said, I was on the board when I first hired on. Believe it or not, the day I came to my very first landfill meeting, the landfill manager at that time, we did the meeting, and at the end of the meeting, he turned his keys in, he said, "I'm done," and walked out the door. So we were really proud with Jim. So I've been with Jim since he started as the landfill board, Sherry and Jim. So been really pleased with everything that Jim brought, the level of professionalism, and just the amount of where we were to where we are now. The amount of change that he's been able to implement, and the amount of success that he's had at the state level and everything, my hat goes off to him. I just wanted to bring him in front of council just to say thank you, and I appreciate everything that you've done for us. Thank you.
I appreciate working with my board. It's been varied. As you see, there's a county commissioner from Rio Grande County, one from Alamosa County, a public works director from Alamosa, a public works director from City Monte Vista, and the Rio Grande County Land Use Administrator, which is Dixie. And that board has varied through the years, but just to kind of give it, most people don't realize how that landfill works. We're an entity among ourselves, we're an authority. We have no association with Rio Grande County, we have no income from tax base, we have no income from cities. We're funded by what comes through the gate and what people pay when they come to the scale house. So we get a lot of people come in complaining about their taxes that should be paying for their trash and stuff. Those are the people I love to talk to, get them set straight. But the landfill, some of the things that Rob didn't mention, he wasn't in on the interview process when they hired me. But when I got in there, the books looked good, they're in the black, a lot of good work. But one of the things was after about 6 weeks, he came to me and handed me a letter. "Oh, by the way, I got this from the state. And it says, unless you come into compliance within 6 months, we're gonna start finding you or shutting you down." So consequently, we had a big hurdle, and it wasn't because of Rob, but it was because of prior employees, and they just hadn't stayed up to date. When we went in there, we were using Rio Grande County policy books. They have nothing to do with Rio Grande County, but that was the policy books for the employees at the Rio Grande County, or the San Luis Valley landfill was a policy book. So consequently, we had to update policy books, wage and salary schedules, evaluations, equipment schedules. The computer, or the printer that was in there was the one you put a piece of paper in, shut the door, open it up or the lid, flip it over, close it. That was what their printer was. As he mentioned, I walked into the manager's office and there was no laptop, printer, or nothing. And I looked around and thought, oh, this is kind of weird. So I asked if this was the manager's office, and they said, yeah. And they said he spent most of his time out running the scraper or something. So there was a lot of hurdles we had to go over. One of the other things was when this was started in the early 90s, the county of Rio Grande, the county of Alamosa, put $250,000 up to start this project. There was a lot of locations throughout the valley that was looked at to find the prime location to put this landfill. One of the reasons it was put where it was located was because of the location. Nobody knows it's there. The depth to water table, stuff like that. And so consequently, it was located out there, and that's why it was started. One of the county commissioners from Alamosa County said, we'll never see that money back from the landfill. Part of the contract was that they'd get that money back in a 12-year period at 6% interest. Wouldn't we love to have 6% interest now on some money? They were paid back in less than 12 years, and the commissioners couldn't believe it. After that, the landfill was self-funding, and it was working amongst itself with no funding from any outside entities. So, like I said, a lot of the stuff that we brought up to par, one of the things is inspections. Up to about the third, fourth year, we had write-ups for deficiencies on the landfill. And from then on, I think this was our 7th year that we haven't had any deficiencies written up on the landfill. We're looked at as one of the premier landfills in the state. We cover a 6-county region, all 6 counties. We bring trash in from all 6 counties. We take in about 200 tons of trash a day. The other thing is, to give you an idea, each person sitting in here generates about 9 pounds of trash per person per day. So that's a lot of trash to get rid of somewhere. So consequently, we try to do our best. What we're looking at is we're just an airspace out there, like these rental places where you store stuff. We're the same thing. The more product we can get in a cubic foot, cubic yard, the more efficient we are. Which we have to keep track of density reports at the end of the year. We have to keep track of volumes. And by the way, we pay the state a quarterly fee every quarter for the trash that we bring in. So we have to pay them to have the landfill out there. Joe Petrick's been our inspection person for about the last 4 years. He always comes in, he says he likes to start at our landfill because when he goes east from there, it goes downhill from there. So as Rob mentioned, we've done a good job of bringing stuff up, and we're looked at as one of the top landfills in the valley. But I do appreciate the board. They've done an excellent job. We've had a few hurdles to jump over, and like I said, the employees have been great, and we've got a new crew out there, and we hope that Ron will continue to bring things forward and come up with new ideas, which he's already talked about some stuff, and continue to let the landfill grow. So that, I appreciate everybody and all the support we've had, and once again, the support from the board. So thank you. We're having a meet and greet for Ron the 21st out at the landfill. So if you know of anybody want to come on out there and bring them out, and we'll meet and greet Ron. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim. I got a couple questions for you since you've been the veteran out there. Why do they not, or why we can't take like asbestos, or like if they demolish a house or something like that?
I'm glad you asked that. Another question, we have about a 32-year build out to answer the question that was brought to Ron. We have to calculate how much stuff we have in place, how much space we have, so each year we have to have a calculation of how much room we have. Right now we have about a 32-year build out, and with the trash that's coming in, as Rob mentioned, that number is going to start diminishing quickly unless we start finding other alternatives. I'll guarantee you right now the state of Colorado is going to start pushing the issues on recycle, reuse, and repurpose. They're charging the Front Range an extra fee for recycling. So in other words, if you go into the pickup truckload of trash, you have to pay the trash fee plus a recycle fee that goes to the state. Currently, they're not doing that for us for the smaller landfills. We hope they keep it that way, but there's no guarantee on that. So one of my things, I was wanting to be out of here sometime after the first year. So obviously, until I'm gone and retired, I'm going to say I'm gone, but I'm counting down to 8 days right now. So one of the things I was hoping I'd be away from would be the budget, the certification of cell 10, and the opening up of a friable asbestos pit. Well, lo and behold, the budget's done, cell 10 is certified, and the friable asbestos pit will open up January 1st. So that was something the board, we've been talking about that for what, about 5-6 years?
5 years, yeah.
And it's been quite a hurdle to do because there's a lot of regulations to follow. And we kept kind of just looking at it. And so we came up with an opportunity. Well, when the spring fire, everybody knows the spring fire, the state called us up and we had a pit, a big pit out there, didn't have anything in it. And every time they'd come in and do an inspection, they'd say, well, what's that pit for? They'd say, well, it's for an emergency. And the thing we kept looking at is if there's a mass animal fatality incident, such as the elk deal with chronic waste disease or something like that, we'd have a place to go with this stuff. So we always kept this pit open. Every time they'd have an inspector come in, what's that pit for? It's for an emergency situation. Well, lo and behold, on the spring fire, every house up there that burned was classified as asbestos contaminated. So they called us up and wanted to know if we'd take the debris from that fire and from the spring fire and put it into our pit and cover it up and go through the regulations and stuff. And so we kicked it around with the board. We had prime opportunity, we had the location, reduced the travel to haul the stuff out of the valley, over the hill, spread it. So we went ahead and agreed to do that. So in that process, when we brought the spring fire material in, we started digging another pit next to this one to cover that material and to have added cover material for our daily cover, which, by the way, we're about 122,000 cubic yards short of soil at the end of the close of the landfill, and we're working on that with different alternatives. So that was the 3 of the projects that we got going, and I wasn't sure if we'd get them done before I left, but they're done, and thank goodness it's service to the community, so we got it. We had a big go around with Action 22, CDPHE, trying to get help, and they had meetings, and all we got was lip service. So we finally had to take the bull by the horn and get it done, and we got it done. So. Any other questions?
Only other question I got is, with all the stuff that's going into landfill, if there was some kind of shredder grinder thing out there, would it make it any?
It would help, and up at Chaffee County, they bought one, but they're just doing it for C&D, construction demolition. What happens is once you run that stuff through a shredder, it grinds it up, makes it a little finer, and it makes it a little easier to compact, a little more compaction, not as much volume. And so the answer is yes, it would. You're looking at about $600,000 to $800,000 for a machine like that. We rented one, as you guys know, when we had the heavy snowstorm a year ago. We had all the branches. We brought a machine in from Salt Lake City, and that cost us about close to $40,000 to bring that machine in. But the thing was, the city of Monte Vista had a huge pile out east. Everybody saw that. South Fork had a huge pile. Rio Grande County had a huge pile. We had a huge pile. And in about a month's time, we condensed that down to probably less than a fourth of what the original piles were. So it definitely does. Talking that the guy up at Chaffee County, they like their machine, but when I called and asked him about it, he says, I love it if I can keep it running, but just like any piece of equipment. And he said that's one of the reasons they purchased it, was to try and condense their C&D construction demolition material down for better application and compaction in the landfill. So, any other questions? Anybody? Come out and visit us. We've had people say when you drive in the front gate, it looks like you're coming into the park until you get past the front office and you get the smell, and it's a little bit different, but as long as the wind's blowing out of the west, it's all right. So, but we're proud of the stuff that we got out there. We've probably got one of the best looking landfills in the state. I went to the one over Trinidad, had a guy with me when we left there. I said, well, what do you think? He says, I think they need to cover the whole property. He says, there's trash everywhere, which is true, and it's right next to the town. So we try to stay on top of that. And that's one of the things we're really adamant about, is taking care of the trash, blowing trash. Anything else? Ken knows what we go through on a landfill, working with the state. Yep. And if you get the state one over onto your side, CDPHE, you're doing good.
You bet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all that you've done, Jim.
Thank you.
You've worked at it a long time, so appreciate
Once
that.
again, appreciate it, so, thank you guys. I'll move on to another venture, whatever that might be, so. My antique tractors.
There we go. So, thank you, Jim, again. That's really kind of my report for the night. I know I'm slated for another report later on tonight, but I think since I'm here, I've taken enough of your time. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Citizen comments. City Council welcomes your unscheduled comments. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Council will not take action at the same meeting. Mr. Van. We'll probably give you a little more than 3 minutes if needed.
What's that?
We'll give you a little more than 3 minutes.
Oh, I don't need it, I'm not long-winded. I did enough of that in my previous job. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Ken Van Warden, and I live at 200 Pintada View, which is located on the west side of Monte Vista. I would also like to congratulate the city council for hiring Gigi Dennis Lounsbury as city manager. I have known and worked with Gigi when she was county administrator for Alamosa County. I understand the city bought the water rights to the property to the west of Pintada View and also west of Willow Road, and I have a few concerns about the property. So does the city own the water rights? What are the intentions of the city for the use of the property, and is it eligible for residential or commercial development? And if the city does own the water rights, I would like to have the city water and grade Pintada View more often than they are presently doing. The traffic is increasing in the neighborhood because the increased development, which is a good thing, but along with that comes more dust and traffic not obeying the speed limit, which is 25 miles per hour. However, I did speak with Chief Dean Felder, and thank you. And UPS and FedEx are doing much better, but we still have some people exceeding the speed limit. Because UPS and FedEx were the biggest culprits. I mean, those big old trucks, they were rumbling down there, and you could hear them when they came off the state highway. And it was getting very frustrating. So I met with Chief, and he was good, and he took it with the bull by the horns, and he did his job. He took care of the traffic. The reason I was so concerned about the water rights, and I understand, you gotta have the water rights, but what is gonna happen to that property now is that it's gonna start drying up, because the past few years, they had someone that rented the property, and he planted new alfalfa, and there was a lot of vegetation, which made it very nice, because when the wind blows, and of course the wind blows out of the southwest, and we're right downwind from all of that, so we catch all the dust. And now that is dried up, of course the sub has gone down. Before, the sub came up, and so our road was wet a lot of the time. Matter of fact, I think Public Works put in a new drain here a few years ago to help with that situation. So when the sub was up, though, it kept the road in pretty good shape. But now that's all gone. The sub is way down because they're not watering that. The only sub that we have over there is when they run the ditch. And so I guess that was my main concern. And so I know that property has been bought by an individual for development. So I don't know at this point whether it's still eligible for development. And what I mean by that is, does the city have enough water to accommodate a development in all of that property? And the other thing is whether they can run the sewer, whether the sewer can be adapted to that. So that's really my only concern about that is I'm not opposed to the development. It's just that right now I am concerned about what's gonna happen to the property the way it is, because of the wind blowing and all the dust and everything else that we have. Because when I moved in there, the city limits was on the road. And since then, well, I guess when the city was contemplating buying the water rights, then the city limits moved about a quarter mile to the east. To the west. And so, and then that includes clear over to that Willow, Park subdivision. That was done by, what's his name? John Varner, yeah. So that's all in the city now, but then when you get past Road 27, then the city limits actually stops there, but to the west of it is still in the city limits. But then that property that Tulsma bought, that's still county. So the speed limit, I guess, can still be 55 over there on that part. So people don't realize that. They come down there at 55 mile an hour and they get to that and the signs are there and they just keep on going. So anyway, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Would you like to answer those questions he had on the property?
Well, I can give you just a little bit, Ken, but I'll defer then to Rob, but he and I took a nice little drive this week. So the city does own that property. It is eligible for commercial and residential development. The water and sewer system will adequately be able to supply in that area. And so at this point, the city council has not had any in-depth discussion on what to do with the property. But, you know, as we go down the road here, we'll have a work session and see what their desires are. See if they're gonna wanna put lots and sell it off. There is some concern as far as a better CDOT exchange as far as a turn lane that would go to the south as well as to the north, off of 160, but Mr. Vance, did I do pretty good
As far as
for,
the water rights, sorry. Rob Vance, Public Works Director. As far as the water rights on that property, they are still, it's gonna be the wrong term, but I'm gonna say they're tied up in water court right now as we go through our augmentation. So we are using those to develop and finalize our water augmentation plan for the city, which will define our water rights and what we actually can use for municipal. We're in court right now to change our water rights to municipal use. So everything that the city owns will be changed to that hopefully in the near future. But that goes into what we can actually produce. And so, as Gigi said, yes, the property is unfortunately, part of the agreement through water court is that property that you're talking north of 27 is in a dry up covenant. So it does, we are not allowed to have that irrigated. It has to dry up and it does affect what is transpired through.
What does that mean? On a dry up covenant?
It means that you can't irrigate it.
They're changing the use from irrigation to municipal, so you can no longer irrigate.
So even though the city doesn't have the rights to it yet, or what?
The city has the rights to it.
To the water.
The city has the rights to the water.
Yes.
So they can dump that, I mean, they can use that water for their allotments then, as far as the distribution to the rest of the city.
So they're gonna use it for augmentation, so they're gonna be replacing depletions to the river.
So then the other then to the south then, that's still in court?
The property to the south,
Yeah, south of that,
the water's still.
south of 27.
South of 27, that property's annexed in. That
Right.
one's ready to go. That is an opportunity if the city chooses that if a developer comes in, that can be developed.
So neither one of the properties, that's the reason that the individual that was renting that does not farm it.
We cannot, so this is a gray area for me, but my understanding is part of our court case, we are not allowed to rent that or to lease that property for agricultural purposes where there would be water.
Okay.
So we can't do that. So that's part of that dry up covenant, just like the north where the alfalfa is.
Sure.
That has to be, the state uses that and there's a log that we have to report to the state during the watering cycle to make sure that we're not actually putting any water there.
And then on the zoning, Gigi was saying that that it's eligible for commercial development. So is part of that zone commercial then?
Not zoned anything at this point.
Oh, okay.
But because it does front the highway, it could be what's called a planned unit
Right,
development.
Yeah.
You could zone some of that as a commercial frontage and then.
So
move it
before
to
that
residential.
happens, there's public hearings?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that would
yeah,
go through the complete planning process.
Okay.
Rob,
Okay.
Rob, I have a question. So if it is supposed to be dried up and part of the development is made residential, does that mean that they won't be able to water their lawns?
Negative.
Okay.
If that area becomes a residential and a development, they will be coming on city treated water unless you wanna do something different, but it would have to be treated water, just like the other part of Pintada. They have treated water as their or water system. They're allowed to water their lawns and do that type of stuff under the city covenants as long as we don't install some sort of a water restriction. And we have voluntary watering restrictions now. So, but yes, they can still water their lawn.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks, Rob. Thanks,
Yep.
Gigi. Resolutions. 2021-21, resolution amending resolution 2020-03, Monte Vista's financial management policies, adding section 12, capital assets and credit card policy update. Anita.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'll just read this into the record. Whereas the City Council, management staff, and all personnel of the City of Monte Vista are charged with the ultimate oversight of fiscal activity of the city government. And whereas the City Manager, Finance Director, management staff, and City Council have taken significant steps to uphold the financials for the city. And whereas the city recognizes the importance and need of guidelines and policies governing all activity in regards to the capital assets and keeping the credit card policy updated for the City of Monte Vista. And whereas the Finance Department has established Section 12 capital assets of the financial management policy and has updated the credit card policy. And now therefore be it resolved that to foster continued financial growth and accountability within the city, the mayor and city council of the City of Monte Vista adopt said amendment to the financial management policy. I would just ask your approval of the amendment of the capital asset policy. Basically what I added is just a policy that goes, I don't know if you had a chance to review it in the packet. It just goes over the fixed asset and capitalization policy. It defines what fixed assets are, how they're maintained, what the thresholds are, the capitalization method, useful life of different types of equipment, depreciation method, and how capital assets are disposed of.
And what did you update in the credit card policy?
It used to say that those that had a company credit card had to sign a new policy every year, as well as new hires. I just updated it so that new hires read and sign the policy now.
Move to approve Resolution 2021-21, resolution amending Resolution 2020-03 of Monte Vista's financial management policies, adding Section 12 capital assets and credit card policy update.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2021-21. Resolution amending Resolution 2020-03, Monte Vista's financial management policies, adding Section 12, capital assets and credit card policy update. Is there any more discussion? Unita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Locke?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segala?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve Resolution 2021-21, amending Resolution 2020-03, Monte Vista Financial Management Policy, adding Section 12, capital assets and credit card policy update.
Okay, we'll move on to ordinances. Final reading of ordinance 910, sell a city-owned property known as the Guzlo Building. Guzlo Building.
Guzlo, Goslo. Tomato, Tamale.
Good evening, Mayor and Councils. Before you is ordinance 910, an ordinance approving the sale of city-owned property. This ordinance was read into record on December 2nd, 2021. Tonight it's before you for final reading. If you approve on final reading, this ordinance will take effect in 30 days and closing will take place. Any questions?
Motion to approve ordinance 910, sale of city-owned property known as the Guzlo Building.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 910 to sell a city-owned property known as the Guzlo Building. Is there any discussion? Unita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Locke?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segala?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve ordinance 910 on final reading for the sale of city-owned property known as the Guzlo Building.
Okay, contracts, agreements, and leases. Payment for furniture for Sky High.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So what I'm asking is for you to approve $107,300.80 to purchase tables and chairs for Sky High Park. This will come through the loan that is under the city's name but is being paid for by Friends of Sky High. So yesterday, Stephanie and I met with Carla Schreiber and Kathy Woods to discuss the purchasing of this equipment. It's quite a bit of furniture. It's 500 chairs, banquet chairs. It's 300 folding chairs. There are 215 folding tables. We've also got another additional 45 tables. It's carts for the folding chairs, and this is all through a company called Total Office.
And what was the amount? 107?
$107,380. And I apologize for the last minute of this and not giving you all time to really look at the paperwork behind it. We're able to secure a lesser dollar amount per chair if we, get it in before the Christmas season and that sort of thing, as well as then the timing to get them delivered so that we can use them by the ag conference the 1st of February.
Make a motion to approve the purchase of said described furniture.
May I say something? Thank you, Gigi. And I would like to apologize to management and to the council for this last minute ask. To to give a little background here, Friends of Sky High we formed a furniture committee, and that consisted of Forrest, Jenny, Linda Burnett, and Gary Wilkinson, and myself. And that committee started about a year and a half ago, and we started looking at this equipment. We talked to some different companies. We hit it off with Total Office, and part of the process was that to also meet the procurement policy of the city is that the city joined a company called, or management thing called Omni thing, which is, there's these companies out there that they take the bidding, they do the bidding for you for government agencies. There's Sourcewell, there's OmniTrust, and all that. So they do the bidding so that the city doesn't have to go out and get 3 bids or 5 bids. They do that for you. And that's why some of the bids came in a lot less. I mean, when we first did retail, again, about when we started this conversation over a year and a half ago, what they quoted us was the retail, and it was a lot more than that. But through this Omni process, they quoted them with manufacturers and were able to get it down. We've been waiting for the USDA grant, and I believe, we came before council, got the USDA grant. We still don't have that. But because of the timing of everything, it's Friends' recommendation that we move forward with this purchase. And again, the money is sitting in the bank. That was part of that $2.5 million loan at SOV that the Alcott Foundation is guaranteeing, and of which there's $400,000 that was set aside for a contingency. And here, about a month ago, it was presented that the Alcott Foundation would approve the release of that $400,000 because it was set aside in case we had overruns on the building, but we're not going to have overruns on the building. So the thought was that $400,000 could then be used for the purchase of office furniture and the recreation furniture, those kind of things, because we also know we need to get it done. And so that's the urgency. The other urgency, everyone hears about the supply-demand issues that are happening right now, and it's the same in the office furniture business. And what the people of Total Office have mentioned is this thing. It changes daily, and just because they quoted us to today, it may not be there tomorrow. So that's the urgency of this matter that Ms. Lounsbury mentioned, is that's what's creating this. And I apologize for not getting it in front of you earlier, but actually we just got this afternoon about 3, and that's not even why I showed up here, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, Gigi, we got a problem. We need to act. So, the city does have the money. We're still going to try to get the USDA grant. It's just a puzzle, and we're putting it together, but this is a lot less. I think my original bids for this were like $205,000 or something. I would like to ask flexibility with the council. There's another dolly. Talking with Stephanie, they bid 1, but we're kind of thinking it might be beneficial to have 2. There's these little truck things that move the chairs around really fast, and it might behoove us to have at least 2 of those out there. So if council would also, pardon?
How much more is that?
In fact, you saw that there at the Rio Grande Conservation.
Yeah.
That's what that little dolly thing is.
Okay, how much more? How much are you talking?
No, where's that? $173. They're pretty cool. But so amazing how fast you can move chairs around.
Yeah, I've used one of those.
And then the other thing, just to clarify, the first payment, and I don't know, Anita, if you told council, was on that loan to SLV Fed was due December 1. And I can't remember what the principal was to be.
The principal was originally, the first payment was like 290,000, I believe. We paid about 53,000 in interest, and they gave us 500,000, so we were able to put over 400,000 towards principal.
Wow.
So it is getting paid down, and that was always the intent of the Alcott Foundation. It was put on a 10-year payout, but the intent and discussion was always to pay it off in 5. So, you know, that happened too. So yeah, there are a lot of moving pieces, but it's coming together, and we have a big, beautiful building out there, and everyone's getting so excited. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't finish my motion, so we're done yet.
I'm sorry.
I don't think so, no. I was interrupted. I make a motion to approve the purchase of the furniture as described, up to the amount of $107,500.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve $107,500 for the purchase of the Sky High Park furniture. Is there any more discussion? Unita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Locke? Aye. Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segala?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the contract for purchase of furniture for the Sky High complex.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll just go right into my updates and a few more things about Sky High. They've started laying the carpet. It looks really pretty. So I'm jealous, and I hope one day we get new carpet in our own office building. The first basketball court has arrived. It is very large. During this time, Rob has put out a bid for a forklift. Is that correct? Forklift. This thing's pretty massive. It's going to take a lot of space. Also, with the basketball court, I have told Jaime that at this time it will not be able to use the Sky High Event Center for his basketball games. One, we're just not really sure when the facility is going to be truly done. The second issue is that it is quite labor intensive to put the court together. And so it's just gonna take some time to really work out the schedule. We've received several save the dates, so to speak, of events that are in February and March and into April, and then you get into May and with graduation and weddings, and it's gonna be pretty awkward. And so until we kind of figure out who is actually doing the labor, and we're going to be offering that on a contract basis to some of our, to any of our city employees that would want to go out and do it. We're going to be looking at possibly working with the school district and seeing if there is interest with some of the, like the basketball team. We can just pay them, make a donation to help support the athletic events. It's all still in play and trying to figure this out. But the basketball court is quite large and is going to take quite a bit of manpower or woman power. There is a walkthrough scheduled to do the first run of the punch list, and that is to review the construction of the contractors and to call out any current concerns. And then we basically have a 1-year warranty for them to get fixed. Isn't that correct, Rob? So I love the community and that they're a big part of this, but there is a lot of people saying, I want to go go through the walkthrough. And I think it's gonna get a little bit jumbled with everybody expressing their concerns. So there will be a second walkthrough as well with just the city and possibly with Carla to really be specific, because we need to, take care of those things while they're under warranty. We met with an organization called 8260 Solar, or it may have been 8760 Solar. They do a lot of solar work with some of the local farmers in the area, and they have asked, they would like to donate a 10 kilowatt system and have it added to the Sky High Park complex. And so they're gonna write something up in more detail for us, but they will maintain it, they will own it and maintain it for 5 years, and then they will turn it over to the city as a donation. And so the system will offset some of the electric consumption that will be used in the building, and so we should see some sort of a credit on the bills for that. So it sounds very positive. They seem very reputable, and they wanted to help be a part of the project as well. So.
Is that a portable unit that they bring in on skids, or is it gonna be a stationary?
Stationary.
Where would they put it?
Right now we're looking at the area basically right under where the electronic sign is, and then going west. And so the footprint of it is not very large in the parking lot at all. So we feel like that may leverage other potential grants in the future, and so we can expand that and see how it works. And it also looks very favorable to the community that we have done something that is more green related. So it's a good PR for you all to use. We also, Stephanie and I also met with Carla and Kathy to try and get some ideas in regards to what the name would be. And this is for our own marketing purposes, and so we can continue working on a website for the facility. Right now, there is, the leading contender is, we will have a name for the event side, and we will have a name for the conference side. And so the Alcott Foundation is double checking, but their request would be that the conference room side would be called the Sky High Complex, or the Ralph Alcott Conference Center at Sky High Complex. And we're gonna refer to it, the whole thing, as the Sky High Complex. And then inside there, we've got opportunities to have room sponsors. And so the Reed family was also a significant donation to the project. And so one of the rooms will be named after the Reeds. And then we're looking at some other sponsorships to maybe name the event side. But the whole thing will be under Sky High Complex, if you all are good with that. Okay. This week has been also busy with some meetings. I met with the Upper Rio Grande Economic Development Group. They meet, and that's Tom Monaco that's using some of our office space. So he runs those meetings. But I thought one thing that was interesting and to bring to your attention is Rio Grande County Commissioner John Knopfinger brought up the pending sale of the railroad. And the counties have a real vested interest in the railroad. And when I say the counties, Rio Grande, Alamosa, Huerfano, Castilla, because of the property taxes that are due. And I'm talking property taxes in excess of over $500,000. And so, but Commissioner Knopfinger is also very interested in the economic consumer side of this and making sure that it's still ongoing, whether it's as a commercial facility for tourism and or commercial facility for freight and for produce, as in coolers and some of the potatoes that are moved outside by freight. So he's working on that and trying to see if there isn't a role in some fashion for us to be able to make sure that it is kept viable. Also, met with the Monte Vista Chamber this morning, and right now they have 5 viable candidates that are to be voted on by the end of December for 2 chamber slots. And so the city is a member of the chamber, of course, and if any of you are individual members, you know, be sure to get on there and vote, because they seem to have their act going well. And then I was invited to attend the weekly Rotary Luncheon, and that was very nice, and it was their holiday luncheon, so we got to sing Christmas carols, and it was great. I wanted to point out, I didn't know if you had seen in the newspaper, there was a nice letter to the editor from the proud military parents that you all gave some funding to help send those care packages to the young men and women that are serving in the military up in the valley. So the city of Monte Vista was recognized on there in their thank you. And then I just want to do a shout out to our own Public Works Department, as well as to the the police department, for their role in the lighting ceremony that took place last week, or about 2 weeks ago now. I think the city looks really pretty with the lights all lit up, and then we had a couple officers helping with some of the traffic control, and just want to say a good job to our own people. So. Questions?
When do we expect the fee schedule for Sky High usage?
So in fact, we are working on that today, and so by our next meeting we'll have it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Any other question? Good.
Alrighty. Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Gigi.
Thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Locke, wherever you are.
She's right here.
On Zoom.
Yeah.
She's sitting right here beside me.
Hi there, Martha.
I'm here.
City clerk report.
Do you wanna do the financial report first?
Did I do that again?
Skip it.
Anita, would you please come up?
All right.
Man, one of these days I'll get that right.
Well, I'll just do this. Hopefully, you will only see me once a month after this. I just thought I would hit some of the highlights. The financial was in your packet, and hopefully you had a chance to review it for the end of November. Wait a minute. So we finished the month of November, 92% of the fiscal year, 1 more month to go to make 100%. The cash balance in the main checking account is $2,099,000. Water fund has $346,000. Sewer fund has $318,000. The revenue in excess of expenditures in the general fund is at $638,000. Water fund is $147,000, and the sewer fund is $153,000. And then the total expenditures percent of the approved budgeted amounts, the general fund is coming in at 96%, which is just a little bit above, but not bad. Water fund is at 75%, and the sewer fund is at 49%. The accounts receivable for the general fund and then the water and sewer fund, you can see that they're pretty much comparative from this year to last year. The water fund though is, no, I'm sorry, I was looking at 2,000 instead of 52. They're all pretty comparable. You know, and it's utility billing, property tax liens, property taxes, the accounts payable. Regular, and what I have up here is just the regular payables and the employee benefits, which is, you know, the benefit packages and accrued vacation and stuff like that. So you can see that this year we are a little bit less than what we were last year. Revenue and expenditures in the comparative, our revenue in the general fund is a little bit higher than last year. Well, and then all of the funds is higher. The sales tax is still coming in at about 12% increase over last year. And our revenue in November also has an increase because of the funds we received from the Outcall Foundation. Sorry. I get choked up about weird things. So that we could make the Sky High lease purchase, which was due first. Our total expenditures, you can see in the general fund is higher than last year, but that is reflective of the payment that we made for the Sky High lease purchase. Our revenues, the monthly comparison just in the general fund, it is averaging about $352,000 per month. The expenditures just in the general fund, the comparison month to month, and there's that big jump reflecting the payment of the Sky High lease purchase. And they are coming in at an average of about $294,000. Our budget comparison, we are under in all of our budgets except for Sky High. But that's a positive thing. We ended November with a current ratio of 3.87 to 1, and we have 9.08 months of operating expenses in the general fund in the unassigned fund balance. Have any questions?
I don't have any questions, I'm not apologies, so.
On your first slide, it said that the sewer fund expenses was only 49%. Was that did I understand that correct? And I was curious to why that one is so significantly lower than what we had budgeted.
Rob?
Want me to touch on that?
Yes, please.
Couple of items. We had over $200,000 that was budgeted for our solid waste removal, the biosolids. That project we haven't been billed for and may not because of the complications that they've had with that project. That project did not get completed this year, so we don't have that expense.
Okay. You're fine, thank you.
So if you don't have, I would request that you approve my financials for November.
Motion to approve the November financial report is read.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the November financial reports. Is there any more discussion? Unita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Locke?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sabella?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the financials for November.
Gigi, you covered all your stuff while you were up here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Anita.
No,
We used to see, I'm with you, I used to see it down here on that line, so I could.
Someone bring a highlighter. Don't forget her.
I'll highlight that for you next time.
Would you please? Thank you.
Take off the items we don't use.
A big huge you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a brief report from me this evening. It's the end of the month, so we're sending out renewal letters. We sent out 254 business renewal letters today. We have 2 new businesses that were approved this week that are going in on Adams Street. We are getting ready to move our court files and get ready for 2022 for court. We did have to cancel court yesterday. Our judge was ill, so we had to cancel court and move those to the 19th of January, so our January docket will be quite large. But our city attorney can handle it. The only other thing I wanted to say is thank you all for hiring Gigi. She has brought a change of morale to the city. The staff is smiling and they're enjoying their jobs, and it's a fun place to be around. I know we're quite noisy sometimes in the hallway and Gigi shuts her door, but it's nice to have that camaraderie amongst the staff again. So thank you, and thank you for supporting our Christmas party this year as well.
Thank you, Danita. Mr. Vance, you got yours already, right?
I did mine, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Come on, chief. Let's hear it. PD
Cops and robbers time.
Cops and robbers.
Yeah, well, mine's actually pretty brief too, just a couple of things. Well, I've gotten over the last few months quite a few complaints about speeding, like on Dennis, Morris, and then on 6th Avenue. So I borrowed State Patrol's, they have one of those speed trailers, which it gives you some really pretty incredible data, and I put that in your packet. I just kind of wanted to go over that. Over the weekend I had gotten an email from Councilor Locke on a complaint down on 6th Street. So I have this data. I'm just going to go over it real quick. So if you look at like the northbound Dennis, so the way this speed trailer works is you set it and then you set the speed limit, like so that those are 30 mile an hour, and then it'll tell you all the vehicles in a certain time frame. So like northbound Dennis, we had it on northbound Dennis from 10-1 to 10-9, so basically a 9-day period. And in that 9 days, there was a traffic count of 4,005 vehicles. With the average, there was, and in that, so that's kind of key, 4,005 vehicles in that 9 days, there was only 11 vehicles that were over the speed limit. So, yeah, you know, we get a lot of complaints, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, is a lot of times the complaints is it's perception, right? I mean, the noise of the vehicle, the size of the vehicle, if they're noisy and they take off from a stop sign, you think, oh man, they're speeding, but in reality they're not. It's just how quickly they're accelerating. So I just want to point that out, but we will continue to address these. I'll tell you the one that totally shocked me. If you looked at 6th Street, in a 10-day period, over 23,000 vehicles are on that street. That blew my mind. I was not prepared to see that number. I did not think there would be even close to that. And out of that 23,000, now I noticed on this that when State Patrol set the trailer up, they said that the speed limit was 35. Well, it's actually 30. So in reality, there was about 1,300 vehicles that were actually speeding. But speeding on this speed trailer is if the speed limit's 30 and you're doing 31, the speed trailer counts that as speeding. So I kind of, you know, if you give it like 5 miles an hour, so out of those 23,000 vehicles, there was actually 689 that were 5 miles an hour or more over the speed limit. So that's something that we can address. So in reality, that's like 2.92% of the vehicles were speeding out of that 23,000. Now the good thing about this speed trailer is it tells us the peak times, the days, the times that people are using that section of the road or whatever. So that gives us a little more, we can better use our manpower to target those timeframes, but rather than just randomly going out there and stuff. So, so much so though, I'm like 2 paragraphs away from finishing up a grant to get one of these speed trailers so that we can use it. So literally, I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. Called an old contact at, contacted an old buddy at CDOT and said, hey, how are you going to give me some money so I can get one of these speed trailers? So he's like, well, here you go. Here's the application. So I'm almost done with it. I'm gonna get that sent off. I'm gonna try and get one of these. It'll be really valuable for us, especially with use of our manpower rather than just going out and randomly doing it. We can target those key times and stuff. And the other good thing about this, I mean, we can use it for events like Sky High, you know, down at Stampede, school zones and things like that. And again, to really help us target those areas, whether it's in neighborhoods or 6th Street. Again, 6th Street, I'm still kind of dumbfounded that there's that much traffic down on 6th Street. I had no idea. So anyway, I'm hoping to get that grant, and I'll do some schmoozing with my buddy at CDOT and see if I can get that grant to get the money for this. The only other thing is that I'm pretty proud of is the fact that we accomplished was this, and we did a press release on it today, the active bystandership for law enforcement. I gave you a packet. It just kind of gives you an executive summary of what we call it active bystandership is for law enforcement. We're only the 10th agency in the state that was accepted by Georgetown University to do this, and we just completed the training yesterday. We didn't have anybody certified to be trainers, so Pueblo PD was generous. The chief up there was generous and loaned us 2 of their instructors to come down and give us the training. And it's amazing because literally just right before I came over here, so just in real short, what this is this really kind of changes our attitude as police officers. You know, there's a lot of talk about needing reform across the nation on law enforcement and how we interact with citizens and stuff. And I've said this 100 times, and it's amazing because this training actually talked about it is sometimes we're our own worst enemies, and it usually starts with us in our mouth, the way we run our mouth. We get in arguments that we shouldn't be in, or there's things that we shouldn't necessarily even be there. So this here really kind of helps us, I guess, kind of more adjust our attitudes to make sure that we are doing things right. And to me, that's what it's all about. Is we do serve the citizens, and that's what we're here about. Is them, and we to treat them right and to make sure that we're doing things right. So this is just a good tool. And seriously, right before we came over here, they went down. They had a call, and one of the officers come back, and he goes, "So there's a code word that we use. If me and Christian are out on the street and we're officers on a call and I'm getting heated with somebody, he's going to come up and tell me this code word, and that's my key for me to walk away and let him finish the call so that we don't continue that argument and escalate it to a point where it needs to be." Literally, one of the officers, and there was 3 of them down on this call, come back and he said our code word is like, "Hey, the lieutenant needs to talk to you. We don't have lieutenants, so that's your code word. That hey, that means you need to probably change. You need to walk away from this call and let one of the other officers handle it to de-escalate it." And he said, "I was standing at this call going, all I could think about was I need to go call the lieutenant." So I'm like, right on. That's exactly what it's about. He knew that he was getting heated with this guy, so he just walked away. So I was pretty proud of the fact that one day after we finished the training, it's already working and stuff. So you know, it's about also saving our careers, because law enforcement, unfortunately, you get in those, we're human, you get in those heated conversations and it escalates to a place where it doesn't need to be, and that's what this is about, is de-escalating it. And sometimes the better part of valor is walking away. You don't necessarily need to always arrest people, but so I'm pretty proud of that, and we're only the 10th agency in the state, first in the San Luis Valley, to complete this training. So that's all I got. You guys, thank you.
Awesome.
That's really good. Thank you for all that you do to get grants and this kind of stuff put together.
Yes, sir. If I get somebody else to pay for it, absolutely. Thank you.
You can't get them just to leave you that speed machine, just say, hey, you just keep it.
For some reason, State Patrol wanted it back. Cheapos.
Kristen? Oh, yes, ma'am?
I just wanted to say one more thing. Because of him, I had to update that fixed asset policy and the grants that he applies for, that he needed a fixed asset policy for one of his grants.
Free money.
I thought you were gonna say because of him, you have to like let off the pedal.
That's Becker.
Well, I want to start off with saying that I fully agree with Anita. If you guys ever feel the need to skip IT on reports, I will never be opposed to it. Good evening, everyone.
But you're getting really good at it.
I'm working on it slowly. I don't have a whole lot to report tonight. One of the big problems we ran into is shipping and handling necessarily. I know it wasn't too long ago that we came up here, all proud of our new server room that Public Works helped majorly in producing. It's full. We're out of space, so we're ordering parts to expand it, and we're receiving the wrong parts, or they're never showing up. So we're having some major shipping and handling issues. If things would have showed up on time, I would have a lot more large items to report tonight. I do have a couple of things. I've been extremely busy over the past couple of weeks. I do want to give a shout out to staff. IT has this problem. We spend a lot of time in chairs, working on computers. They've managed to, I've been very active recently. I've walked this building many times over the past couple of weeks. So huge shout out to them. Whether that's a good or a bad thing is up for interpretation. One of the other major things I'd like to report, this isn't necessarily something for Monte Vista, but in Alamosa we've had to replace a lot of UPSs, the battery backups that could keep computers going when everything dies, power. We haven't had that here. And the reason for which is we actually got Viero back down here to fix their brand new generator. The fancy machine that's supposed to kick on when all the lights go out, it was sitting in an error state and never actually kicking on. So we got them down here and made sure that was up and running. Another shout out to Rob as everything was locked up, and I know especially with our key issue, you've done some amazing things and you've helped out tremendously throughout all this.
Big feet, just kick the door down.
That used to be the method for getting in, and you got the door fixed, and that was the problem initially, was the fact that it does actually lock now. But other than that, not a whole lot tonight, so if you guys have any questions.
One thing that I want to compliment the city staff on, and your agendas and packets on the website are terrific. They're easy to find, and I have no trouble.
So I actually want to direct that over to Unita. She handles all that and does an amazing job.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
All right, well, you guys won't see me again for a little bit, hopefully, so have a great Christmas, and
Won't see you till next year.
exactly.
All right. All right, council, committee, city commission, council reports. Martha, seeing how you're present but not, you got any report?
Oh, maybe I need you to clarify whether I'm not present. I'm here. I'm here as much as I'm normally here. I haven't been out and about, so I haven't seen much. But I do want to just give a great big gratitude. Monte Vista really has shown a lot of kindness. They to a lot of different people, including me. And I know that Monte Vista is known as the heart of the San Valley, but what I'm seeing is our people are part of Monte Vista. I just think that needs to be acknowledged, that we've got some really wonderful, helpful, kind, and caring, non-judgmental people in this town, and I appreciate it. It makes me want to work harder later.
Very good. Thank you, Martha. Mr. Foster.
Well, council, we have gone through another year without killing each other. Congratulations.
Well, I wasn't expecting that, but okay.
It's not over yet.
Well, you're right, it's not over. We still have 10 minutes.
Can we schedule a special meeting?
But
What's the CRS?
as we two items.
Executive session.
As we look toward another year, I am going to challenge my constituents, or my colleagues, if you're not constituents, excuse me, to set a project or a direction or something that you want to be a part of accomplishing this coming year. I want you to think about something and make it something that is definable, something that is quantifiable. I mean, it's nice to say, oh, we want Monte Vista to be a better place, and we all want that. But I challenge the rest of you, everybody up here, to come up with a project or something that you can quantifiably put yourself into and look back in a year and say, I pushed this through. I've already got my idea, but I'm not going to tell you until next week.
Till next week.
Next meeting, next meeting, I should say. And then the other thing is this Saturday at 6 p.m. at First Christian Church, we will be having a free Christmas concert. It will feature Amy and Lorraine. They are two recording artists. They've recorded about 3 CDs of original material. And they will be doing a concert. They'll also be leading some singing of some Christmas carols. And it will be a wonderful time. And it is free. And I really hope to see everybody there. 6 o'clock, First Christian Church, Saturday, the 18th. And that's all I got.
6 p.m.?
Yes.
Mr. Segal.
I kind of want to reiterate what Martha said about our citizens here in Monte Vista. Working across the street at the eye care center, we get, like I've said it before, but we get people from like everywhere, that have lived everywhere and decide to move to the valley. And I sit there and I ask them, what made you come to the valley? Like, why? And a lot of the time, it's they have family that's been here before, so they have roots that kind of tie them back. But I think that's amazing because they always end up coming back. There was something about the city or about the people that just grabbed a hold of them and just didn't let them go, and they just want to be here. And I just, like I said, the city of Monte Vista, the citizens are what make that, and I'm just proud to be here in Monte Vista. So, it's getting cold. Bring your dogs in from outside. It's terrible, if you're cold, they're probably cold, so just be mindful.
Very good, thank you, Victor. Jason?
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We'll see you next year.
There you go. What? I'll reiterate on that. Merry Christmas to everybody in this community. The lunch we had today was a hoot of a time. Had a lot of good fun with all of the city crew. It was good to see everybody, and I'm glad that you guys do that. That's awesome. And then Parade of Lights, I just wanted to shoot that out there. Thank Rob and his crew for all the lights that they put up and what they did. And it was, I thought it was a grand time. Next year, plans to be bigger and better. I was helping Jennifer with the Parade of Lights, and I got yelled at more in 15 minutes than I've ever been yelled at by my wife. But as I was zipping across town to be on the other end of things, I seen somebody on Adams Street that I knew, so I stopped to visit with him, and there was some people that had just moved here from Granby that week before the Parade of Lights, and that guy praised Monte Vista for how Monte Vista was or is. Why? And he didn't go into detail because I was kind of in a hurry, but he said to move here and then have a festive thing going on like this, he said, this is absolutely awesome. So that's really all I have for that. So Merry Christmas to everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and God bless. I hope y'all have a great time with your family.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one more event to call to your attention, and that is Saturday at 10 o'clock is the laying of the wreaths at Home Lake. If anybody's interested, and I don't know if you've ever been there before, but it's a very moving, very meaningful service. They recognize our veterans and our fallen brothers and sisters, and then you have the opportunity to take the wreaths that have been donated, and they've got enough to cover each headstone this year. And you take the wreath up to the headstone, you read the name of the soldier, and you say thank you for your service, and you leave the wreath, and then you go to do the next one. And I've done it for several years. It's pretty fun.
How many people are involved in that?
Oh gosh, it depends kind of on how cold it is, but there'll be as many as 50, 60 people out there. And then it's beautiful. Sit there and look at all of them.
What time is this?
That's at 10 a.m. Saturday.
10 a.m. Saturday morning at the Veteran Center.
Yep, the Home Lake.
Home Lake Veteran Center.
They're at the cemetery.
Very good. Thank you, Gigi. Well, with that, we will adjourn the meeting until January
6th.
6th. Thank you.